Hey loves, this is your girl Safia Abene, and today I want to speak with you on a subject which is very in line with today's theme worldwide. It is World Mental Health Day, and I want to speak more when it comes to children's mental health. Believe it or not, children silently often suffer with mental health issues, which is only discovered when they're older. I know that many of us can relate to that we, looking back at our childhood, we suffered with depression and issues relating to how we were raised, which has affected us as adults. And it's my conviction that if we as parents get it right with our kids now, I'm not saying be perfect, I mean get it right with our kids now, to create a space where they can come and talk to us about anything, then we can break the cycle that we has gone on in our past, our family, that we have also experienced. We can create that space where our children won't have to grow up with issues of low self-esteem, issues, depression, issues of not being able to function in a healthy relationship and attracting toxicity. And before I go there, I want to share a little bit of my story so we can understand the importance of focusing on children today as well on World Mental Health Day. Many children suffer in silence. Many children go through bullying and are dealing with divorce and separation of the parents. Many children grow up with self-conscious issues. Many children are dealing with, even during the COVID, mental health is a big thing. But we need to remember as parents that our children have many unspoken feelings, have many things inside them that they won't know how to articulate unless we are intentional as parents to create that space. So let me just give you a bit of background. I don't want any one of you today to ever feel that, and I'm going to break that stigma today, that suffering with depression, suffering with any issues of mental health is something to be ashamed of. Not at all. I can own that I have suffered bouts of depression in my childhood especially. And I medicated. I turned to things which I only knew to turn to because that was what was there for me, because I didn't have the care of my parents to be able to talk to. I was raised with, there was 9 of us, well there's 10 of us siblings, but I was raised with my 2 sisters and my brother, and I'm the youngest. My parents split, and I'm not going to go through everything, but I just want to give you a bit of a background. When my parents split, I was 8, and that itself shattered me. I remember the morning very clear. I can smell the atmosphere right now as I'm sharing this with you. I remember Sunday morning waking up, smelling Sunday cooking, breakfast, but hearing screaming of my mother as she was calling out, "David, David!" My father was leaving. He had the removal van come and take some of the furniture. And I didn't even know my parents were even going through anything to even have a split like this. I remember jumping out of my bed and running to the passage. I couldn't get down because there was a wardrobe between me and my father downstairs on the stairs. And I remember the anxiety, the frustration, the fear, the panic. My world at that split seconds was falling apart right before me. I was 8. And that's when it all began with me, that I can remember. When I started to sink into my world of abandonment and loss and confusion. Why did my daddy leave me and take my siblings and left me behind with my mother? Well, cut long story short, I stayed with my mom and her Caucasian husband. I say Caucasian for a reason because I suffered a lot of racism at home. And during those years, from 8 to 16, I was physically abused by my mother's husband. Those times he would use his fist, he would kick me in my stomach, drag me down the stairs with my extensions and my braids, throw me out on the street for the world to see, call me all kinds of names. My mother too, emotionally and verbally told me how ugly I was, how ugly and dark and black I was like my father, and so many things. And I'm saying this for a reason, because I don't really share my story. And during that time, my mother created an environment for me that even though I started to break down and cry every day, I was suffering the beginning of depression for years as a child. And I would pick up the phone and want to tell my siblings who moved out, even my father. But my mother got there on time, and she would tell my siblings that I am mentally ill. Do not listen to Safia, she's not well. So therefore, by the time I got to them, they already had in their mind, she's crazy, Safia's crazy. So any expression from what I suffered was a sign of, she's crazy. Not that, oh, she's being abused, let's get her some help, but no, she's crazy. So I couldn't find a solace with my siblings. But I'll come to visit them during the holidays. I would go off in a room while they were having their parties and everything, and I'll cry. Every time I'll cry, I didn't want to go home, I didn't want to go back. And they would laugh at me, they would mock me. And at the same time at school, I was being bullied because I was the only black girl in my year. I was called all kinds of names, nigger, big eyes, all the things right now which I actually love about myself, not nigger. That's not a term I will use, accept, embrace it, any way, shape or form, not even music. I had that for 8 years. My mother, my siblings didn't do anything about it. I got it at school, I got it at home. I reached out for help to my teachers. No one truly believed me. Every evening I used to go to the phone and call Childline, and that was the only place where I could find a place, someone who would hear me, but no action was taken to take me out of that home. So after a while, the straw that broke the camel's back was when my brother sexually molested me. And I'm like, no one's hearing me. I booked myself in for psychotherapy as a child. I wanted to keep this right because I knew this was my only strength, because no one out there was listening to me. And so eventually I packed my bags. I did it once and I did it twice. I ran away from home and I did not come back. I just moved in with someone else to finish my studies and moved to another part of the UK to start my life. I moved out at the age of 15, so I started living by myself very early. But I say all of that to say this. I medicated during that time, not on drugs, thank God, not on promiscuity, but in alcohol. As a child, I would take cans of my stepfather's cans of beer, and I would take it to school with me and hide in the local church, of all places, right? The Catholic church, because I was a Catholic. And I would hide there and just cry, skip classes, truancy they'll call it. And I just drank cans of beer because I couldn't stand the pain. I didn't have anybody I could turn to. And it affected me growing up as a young person. It affected my relationships, especially how I saw men, especially how I saw boys. And coming into the church as a broken young person, I thought this was a place where I could release all my pain and just be honest about my stuff. I was sadly disappointed when the abuse just extended in the church, because here they saw a broken young person that they could trash and destroy. And basically what I'm saying is, parents, we need to be intentional. Let's say it in the positive. I didn't have a space where I could speak beside Childline. Thank God for that. And there was God, definitely. But many children today are being bullied at school like I was. Many children today are suffering the breakdown of the relationship between you and your spouse, or the father who's not in the home. And I want us to be intentional, to make it an effort, to be intentional as mothers, as parents, to create that space where we can let our children, a non-judgmental space, we can let our children talk to us about anything that's on their heart, where we sit, let them talk. We learn active listening skills by repeating. So what you're saying is, what I'm hearing you saying is that correct? And we create that space for them to talk to us about anything. And trust me, I have done this with my children. I've done it with my firstborn, and up to this day, she's 21, and she still can talk to me about anything. I don't care what it is. And I'm not to respond until she's finished. And if she wants my advice, I will share with her my experiences, share with her where I've gone wrong. Don't be a hypocrite, parents. Let your children know where you haven't done it right so they can learn from it. And that creates a bond, it creates a space of trust, security, non-judgment, and a place where they can actually discover life themselves and bounce back and not get it right and bounce back to come back on you and as a sounding board, and prevent depression, to prevent the issues, at least lessen the issues that can come in their life as they get turned to young adults. I am very conscious, and I keep saying again, that my home does not have a father. And I'm conscious that my children will and do experience the loss or the absence of a father. So therefore, I have made it a big intention, especially with my son, especially because I know for boys, they don't usually are articulate. But my son is very articulate about how he feels because I let him know. And parents, please, if you are raising if you are a single parent and you're raising a boy especially, don't let the father's name be dragged in the dirt. Don't let the father's name be a taboo subject. Let his or her father's name be a subject that you can bring up anytime they want. And let them know they can tell you anytime. They can cry on you. They can express their anger to you. You will not judge them. You will just be there to hold them and to encourage them and to remind them of the God who will strengthen them through it and work through it with them. Start early to create that space where your children can talk to you about anything. Because if you don't, you'll be surprised at some of the things that they end up doing when they get older. It's important. If I had that space, if the things didn't happen, in fact, when my parents split up, if I was able to speak with my mother instead of being called crazy because I was crying because I missed my daddy, if I was able to speak with her, not being labeled and ostracized from my family, so I wouldn't get any outward support, so that it was intentional what she did so that I could not have any support, I would not have turned to alcoholism. I would not have made many of the choices I had made as a young person. But I thank God I had God. And not many young people have that story. And that is another reason why I'm intentional. I'm purposeful to make sure that my children can tell me anything or talk to me about anything. Create that space, parents. Create that space on World Mental Health Day. There are many adults that are going to be suffering with mental health disorders and issues as they in the next few years, because as children they did not receive. It's not just enough to provide physically food, clothing, and yes, we go to church with our children and we pray with that. Yes, we have worship. Yes, but also take that time, carve it out to have some one-to-one time where your children can talk to you about anything. Okay? Don't drag their father's name in the dirt, single mothers. You have your issues, let it stay with you. And also don't lie for the father, but don't gloss over what he's done. deal with it as it is, but your personal feelings about it, the child don't need to know about that. World Mental Health Day. Let's protect our young people. Create that space where they can bond and share and open their hearts without judgment, knowing that you're not perfect. So they can feel that they can tell you anything. I have that in my home, and I'm glad I have the hearts of my children. I'm grateful to God, and I don't take it for granted, because I know how it was to not be able to have a voice. So I hope this encourages you. I hope this is a reminder, is a warning, if to make bonding and conversation with your children a priority, to make it a regular thing, a weekly thing if you have to. Okay? Because you don't know what's going on in school. You don't know what they experience. They're not telling you. You don't know. And even if you're homeschooling, don't take that for granted because you're around them all the time. You don't need to have that. I do that with my kids because I'm aware of the environment that we live in. I'm aware that there's no father in the home. I'm aware that they're children. Okay? Be intentional. Be intentional. Be involved in the life of your children. You don't want them turned into other things. That's what I did. And as an adult, I have been healed of many things, but they still present themselves, and I have to make a decision not to choose to go down that road. All because, you understand what I'm saying? As much as we know that Christ heals and He forgives and He delivers and everything, but we live in a sinful world, and certain things have a print on the mind which can come back up. So, a World Mental Health Day. Take care of our babies. Take care of our babies. I hope this proved a blessing to you. I love you. I love your children. That's why I'm sharing this video. Let's prevent mental health issues with our children. And hey, it's okay if you've been suffering with depression, if you've had suicidal thoughts, please reach out. Please reach out to somebody, because your life, and if you're a young person watching this, your life is so precious, darling. Your life is so worth the living. This isn't it. This isn't it. There's so much I could share with you what I went through as a young person. And I kept going. I kept going because something in me would not let me die. I tried to take my life, but I couldn't. Something in me would not let me die. I kept going, and I'm so glad I did. So glad I did. So I can share this message with you today. Keep going. God loves you. I love you. Happy World Mental Health Day.